The October 18th meeting of the Mifflin County Board of Commissioners will begin this morning with an invocation given by Commissioner Postal, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance.
Eternal God, sometimes we want to change the world, but we just don't know what to do. But with your guidance, we will proceed in the spirit of peace, honesty, and fairness. And we ask for your presence this day and every day. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item this morning is approval of the minutes from our October 4th, 2018 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Approval of the bills. Commissioner Postal.
All right, start with accounts payable. Your accounts payable total $500,361.51. Payroll account totals $335,196.69. 911 account $17,488.19. We have 3 checks in the LEPC account totaling $197.61. 1 check in the CDBG account for $464.53. And finally, 1 check in the CDBG home account, and that totals $41,295.50. I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Treasurer's report. Treasurer Simmons.
Our beginning balance was $694,993.21. We had deposits of $452,527.43. We had a transfer from 911 for $66.64. We had a transfer from LEPC for $406.44. We agree with the reading of the bills by Commissioner Postal, leaving us an ending balance of $312,435.52. Our liquid fuels account has $260,303.26. Our Act 89 has $223,223.59. Our 911 has $2,434,366.61. Our LEP has $17,277.59. Our local use fund has $78,343.09. Our capital reserve has $7,141,465.47. And we still have a certificate of deposit of $3 million. It's all set for audit.
Any questions for Dan? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Meetings and events. Commissioner Dunkel.
Well, normally with the advent of fall, meetings pick up and it becomes a busy time of the year. Since we last met, we had a department head meeting. We met with Larissa Bailey. She is a staff representative from Senator Toomey's office. She covers Central Pennsylvania. We had our quarterly Human Services meeting with Juniata County and the director, Allison Fisher. We had a meeting of the Record Improvement Fund. We had an Act 137 meeting. I had the Central County's Youth Detention Facility meeting in Bellefonte. This is where 5 counties initially went together to provide facilities for juveniles. And the counties are Clearfield, Center, Clinton, Mifflin, and Huntington. We had a meeting to discuss plans for the Veterans Day Parade, which is coming up. And then, of course, during this last period, we also had an Airport Authority meeting and Mifflin County Conservation. In addition to this, we've had numerous budget meetings and various meetings with department heads. Thank you.
Mr. Postal.
Besides those that Commissioner Dunkel had mentioned where we all attended. At a Cedar Natural Gas Executive Committee meeting, participated in a National Association of Counties conference call. We had a meeting with our auditors to review the 2017 audit. At a JVBDS Executive Committee meeting, a Youth Park Association meeting, participated in the Suicide Awareness Walk in Kish Park, which I believe we raised about $12,000 or over $12,000. And finally, at Harvest Fest, I tried to eat a pumpkin pie in 5 minutes, and I lost.
Without hands.
Without hands, and I didn't do too good.
He does a much better job running county government than he does eating pumpkin pie.
It was tough.
Well, if you can go back next year, you'll be experienced.
I already told them I'm not going back next year.
All right. In addition to the meetings mentioned by Commissioner Dunkel and Postal, I had the Regional Services Board and the Library Board. I'd like to welcome Max Ober and Stephen Gibson from MCTV today. Thank you for being here to film for us. Do we have any public comment this morning? All right, seeing none, we'll move to item A. Zane Swanger, Director of Elections and Voter Registration, and an election update for us.
Good morning, everyone. So formal notice that the general election is coming up November 6th, commonly referred to as the midterm election. Polls will be open in Mifflin County from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. The Mifflin County Courthouse will open up the lobby at 7:30 p.m. to welcome public and press to come in for the return process. Besides that, the county website is also going to be updating the unofficial results from the evening periodically throughout the night, and also encouraging those to watch the state's election return website at electionreturns.pa.gov. It'll show all of the races we have and also statewide. Absentee ballot applications need to be received by the election office no later than 5 p.m. on October 30th. Those can be requested by calling the election office or stopping by physically. Official absentee ballots must be returned to the election office by 5 p.m. on November 2nd. The Brown Township split has been completed in time for the upcoming election, thanks to the smooth processing from the Mifflin County Board of Elections, Solicitor Steve Snook, and the Mifflin County Court of Common Pleas. Brown Township will now have 2 voting precincts: Brown Reedsville Big Valley at the Reedsville Fire Company Banquet Hall and 16 Firehouse Boulevard, and Brown Churchill at the Kish Valley Grace Brethren Church, 99 Taylor Drive. Special thanks to the Brown Township Supervisors, Reedsville Fire Company, Kish Valley Grace Brethren Church, and the voters of Brown Township for all the cooperation and positive feedback that has been received from the voting district alteration. A majority of Brown Township voters should have received their updated voter ID cards in the mail already. Due to the large number of mailings, we're asking that voters that did not receive theirs yet wait till next week, as the last few batches were sent out this week. So we're asking voters to wait till the middle of next week, and if they don't receive their updated card by then, call our office and we will get a duplicate ID card sent out. Public testing of election equipment to be used in the election is going to be conducted this Friday, October 19th, at the Danks Building, 152 Market Street. Other updates, the voters of Wayne Township will now be voting at the Tuscarora Intermediate Unit. These ID cards would have already been sent out earlier this year. If there is any voters in Wayne Township that did not receive their duplicate ID card, they're encouraged to call our office as well. Voters of Armall Township may notice that the precinct name has changed to align better with the practice of all of our other precincts in Mifflin County. This was an administrative change and did not affect any of the polling locations. So because of that, no ID cards were sent out to the voters. Armall Old is now referred to as Armall West, and Armall New is now referred to as Armall East. Again, this is just an administrative practice to better align with all the other namings that we have throughout the county with our precincts. Specimen ballots for the upcoming election can be picked up at the election office. For convenience, we've also placed those sample ballots online, so voters can go online to the county website under departments, elections, and then Election Central. It has all of the specimen ballots available there for printouts or for observation. And also an update, final small update to the county website. On the election page, I did add the political party committee contacts for the major political parties. So now if individuals have questions for the Republican or Democratic committee chair people, their contact information is now available on the website. And a few statistics, blue wave, red tide, something in between. What are we going to be looking at? Draw your own conclusion. But with some reports I pulled, statistics from the closing after the primary until October 9th, which was the last day to register for this election, we've had 268 new registrations. So that is people registering for the first time. 268, 57 of those were Democratic and 150 of those Republican. 61 were either other affiliations or no affiliations. And we also had 100 direct party changes, voters that decided to change from one party to another. Of those changes, 31 of them changed to Democratic and 55 changed to Republican. And then 14 changed to other affiliation or no affiliation. As I mentioned, absentee ballots can be requested. Some statistics already. Our county is up in numbers, so our majority of the county is up on absentee ballot applications. So far to date, we have 286 absentee applications that were sent. Of that, 116 ballots returned, so 40% return rate, which is pretty decent at this time, and there's still plenty of time to apply. Other than that will conclude with the total number of registered voters Mifflin County has. As of this moment, Mifflin County has 24,730 registered voters, of which 15,200 Republican and 6,800 Democratic. That's all I have.
Thank you, Zane. What's the difference between an independent and a no affiliation?
Okay, so in Pennsylvania, you can register as any political party as you're choosing. On our applications, we have specifications for Republican, Democratic, or other. If an individual selects other, there's a line provided that you write down what political party you classify as. There is hundreds of political parties an individual could classify as. For the upcoming election, we have a no affiliation candidate that's actually going to be on one of the ballots for the 82nd district. Difference really is just own personal classification. There's no other justification to that.
All right, could you once again provide that web address for people to keep track of the precincts as they come in on
Sure.
election?
So as they come in, the state has a great interactive website where it is live updates as soon as we update maybe 4 times to the state in that evening. And their website's very interactive, shows percentiles, line graphs, and everything, very nice. It's on electionreturns.pa.gov. And on that, there's an interactive map. You can click on which county you want to look at. Since this is a federal election, all of our races are going to be listed on that website.
You good?
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zane, I just want to compliment you for your presentation. It was very comprehensive, very informative, not only for us, but for the public. You did a great job, thank you.
Well, thank you. Also like to say thanks to, I see that the Sentinel is here. They did great coverage of the Brown Township split, which I think is going to pay benefit to all of our voters that are affected by that. They did great coverage on that, so special thanks to them.
All right, thank you. All right, item B, request for exoneration of 2018 county real estate tax bills and relieve the tax collector for collecting these bills. We have 2 parcels in Granville Township. In both instances, they were mobile homes that were destroyed. One is for $85.16, and one is for the grand total of 79 cents. I have a motion to approve these exonerations.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item C, Resolution 14 of 2018, Mifflin County Commissioners, and on behalf of the Brown, Dairy, and Granville Township Supervisors and the Lewistown Borough Council, appointing a Section 504 compliance officer and establishing a grievance procedure. Jim Letier.
Good morning. There's 3 resolutions before you. The first one, as Kevin mentioned, is Resolution 14. What this is regarding is Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which prohibits discrimination based on disability in any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. A disability is defined as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more life activities, and they would include seeing, breathing, walking, hearing. It also includes providing what they call a reasonable accommodation. Reasonable accommodation would be a change or modification to a policy, service, or a particular facility to allow a disabled person to participate in a federally assisted program. An example would be this meeting here today. We also must appoint a Section 504 officer annually, and Douglas Marks from our office is the 504 officer in the past, and we are assigning him that title for the 2018-2019 period, and that's the bulk of the Section 504 and Resolution 14. We'll also, as Kevin mentioned, this is for the county and on behalf of the entitlement municipalities, Brown, Dairy, and Granville Townships, and the borough of Lewistown.
Okay, if someone objects, so could you go on and do 15 and 16? I'll ask you to get a motion as a package.
Yes, sir. Resolution 15 is an annual requirement for restating a fair housing policy, which is done in accordance with the Fair Housing Act, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and numerous other federal statutes and regulations, in addition to the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act of 1955 as amended. Each year we're required to do several things. One is to publicize the name and contact information for a fair housing officer, which is our chief elected, or clerk, Kathy Romig, and we have to advertise that annually in the paper, and we have accomplished that in a publication in the Sentinel in August 22nd. It listed the procedures for any complaints relative to fair housing and listed contact names, which included our chief clerk and the Harrisburg Regional Office of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, and also the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. Additionally, we're required to conduct at least one fair housing activity yearly. This year's activity was the posting of fair housing literature and laws and regulations on the county's website, in addition to all the entitlement municipalities' website. And finally, we're required to include the fair housing logo on all correspondence relative to CDBG and program activity, which we do. So with that said, we are assigning Kathy Romig as the fair housing officer and adopting the fair housing policy as I just went over. Resolution 16 of 2018 is the resolution adopting the 2018 Community Development Block Grant projects for Mifflin County, and on behalf of Brown, Dairy, Granville, and Lewistown Borough. We received a total for everyone in the amount of $666,245. The Mifflin County process is a formalized process in which we accept applications during a time period, and we have an advisory committee who uses objective criteria, which I provided to each of you, and we rank each project. We received only 2 projects and ended up recommending funding 3. The 2 projects we received were from the Mifflin County Youth Park for a fair share project for ADA upgrades to the public restrooms at the Green Building, and one from Ormont Township for a demolition project of a blighted structure at 73 North Main Street. We did go through the rankings and felt that there was justification to fund both the Mifflin County Youth Park and the Ormont Township demolition project. In addition, our single-family housing rehabilitation program is also recommended for funding. Our county's total is $227,362. The funding amounts for the youth park fair share is $21,150. For the demolition project, it's $51,000, and the rehab, single-family rehab is $114,287. And our planning administrative activities is $40,925. The borough of Brown Township funded their fair share portion for the youth park in the amount of $3,915. They also are doing some ADA ramps with truncated domes at several locations throughout the township, which are Walnut and Church Street, Logan and Waterfront Streets, and Lynn and Waterfront Streets. That's for engineering, design, and permitting, and delivery costs in the amount of $61,145, and partial funding of single-family rehab in the amount of $7,910. Derry Township requested funding. They did their portion of fair share, which is $7,065 for the youth park, and the remaining funds into their housing rehab program of $91,823. Administration dollars, $21,707 for a total of $120,595. Granville Township funded their rehab program in the amount of $81,259. Administration, $17,837 for a total of $99,096. Borough of Lewistown rehab, $110,675. Administration, $19,530 for a total of $130,205. The reason why the majority of the entitlement communities funded their rehabilitation program is because they have several projects they want to do, which necessitated income surveys for roadway projects. Those surveys have to be conducted and approved prior to submitting the application. So in the interim, we're going to submit this application, wait for the contract to be approved, and conduct the income surveys. If they are eligible, we could modify the application at a later time, which will be sometime next year, to include those projects. With that said, we're requesting, we're recommending the amounts that were indicated to you and that are contained in the resolutions. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if I can.
Jim, just a question of how the amounts compared to last year, the totals.
They were very similar. I think we had a 10% increase overall compared to last year.
All right. I have a motion to approve the resolutions 14 through 16 of 2018.
So moved.
I will second.
Any more questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you, Jim. Item F, inmate housing agreement with Huntington County for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. I have a motion to approve this housing agreement.
I will move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Just for comment here, we used to house Huntington County inmates many years ago. At one point it stopped, and we're now reaching out to them again. We're housing a lot of inmates from Northumberland County right now, but that will be ending within the next year, year and a half, as they have a new prison that they've built, and they're still getting their people hired. So we'll be losing some inmates from there. So Huntington County has agreed with us on a contract to provide some inmates here. So, all right, we have the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item G, 2018 State Homeland Security Grant in the amount of $472,804, managed by South Central Mountains Counterterrorism Task Force, which Mifflin County is one of 8 partner counties. Mr. Lucas.
Good morning, thank you. The grant is distributed or controlled by 8 counties, which are part of the task force, and those funds are dedicated to supporting first responder responses, training, and planning amongst our various responders, whether it's police, fire, EMS, but it also supports non-governmental organizations and healthcare institutions. And the goal is to just increase overall readiness and capabilities.
All right, is there a portion per county, or is that just a pot that is used for the?
There's a really complex formula that they use to determine what each county's baseline would be for that amount, but the grant itself is directed to the regional task forces. It's controlled by the federal government, but the states have to determine a funding formula. They don't like to admit that it's based on population, but that formula also includes risk identified in the areas, whether it's critical infrastructure, critical businesses, or other homeland security sensitive facilities based on that risk.
All right, the other 7 counties that are with us, is it mostly CEDACOG region, or is this a different region?
About half. We have, the 8 counties are Bedford, Blair, Fulton, Huntington, Center, Mifflin, Juliet, and Snyder counties, which obviously the eastern half of the task force region is the CEDACOG, the other half is more towards just central Pennsylvania. But we're kind of that area between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and then outside of the Harrisburg region.
When Mifflin County gets its allocation out of this grant amount, will that money be funneled down so that all areas of the county will be getting something?
No. The funds themselves are pooled, even though we can figure out by formula what would be based for Mifflin County. The funds themselves are pooled for regional programs and regional projects. The executive board meets with representative committees of all the institutions, whether it's fire rescue, hazmat, law enforcement, EMS, healthcare. We have a couple other standing committees, and what we typically do is we learn what the amount's going to be about a year before the funds are actually released. So we work with the various committees to identify what their priorities are, and 2 of the larger priorities and wind up being part of almost a 6-year project now, where we've increased our capabilities to respond to flooding and water rescue incidents across the region. We're in a process of, we've just finished purchasing inflatable boats, which obviously as we have flooding for Mifflin County, we're blessed with several fire companies who have river rescue boats. But when we have localized flooding, which the majority of the flooding we have in our area now that affects our residents is more from stormwater runoff. The river boats are too heavy, too cumbersome for the 4 occupants of the boat to pick up and carry over obstacles as they try to access people. And that was one of the things we identified regionally, is we needed lighter inflatable boats across the region so that they could have better access to people who were in flooding and fast water rescues. We're also providing the training so they can become nationally recognized and certified, but we're also providing equipment that they've never had, whether it's water rescue equipment, cold water protective equipment, those types of things. We're also in the finishing phases of completing active violence response. It used to be called active shooter response, and we've provided equipment to every police officer across the region. We're in the process of providing ballistic protective vests for every ambulance across the region, and we're also looking at expanding that to the fire companies. So the money, while it seems like a large amount of money, as we identify projects, we try to plan those projects out over several years so that we can have maximum benefit to as many people as possible, but then also be able to sustain those programs so that we make sure they are ongoing as we face decreases in federal funding in the future.
Thank you.
All right, I have a motion to approve that state line grant.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion is approved. Item H, 2019 holiday schedules for the prison, courthouse, and 911 employees. Motion to approve.
I will move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item I, reappointment of Michael Prentzman to the CEDACOG Joint Rail Authority for a 5-year term.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Appointment of Michelle Fetter, Reedsville, PA, Christopher Wagner, Lewistown, PA, and the reappointment of Cynthia Kennedy, Belleville, PA, for 3-year terms in the Mifflin County Library Board. Motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion is approved. Item K, reappointment of Donald Lynn, Lewistown, PA, and James Felmley, Lewistown, PA, to the Mifflin County Industrial Development Authority for 4-year terms. Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item L, proposals from Infocom Corporation, Evansburg, PA, for Barbara Stringer, Mifflin County Register of Wills and Recorder of Deeds for scanning and microfilm. We have 5 projects listed there. You want to talk about them, Barb?
Yes. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Starting with the first 2 there for the estates, the County Record Improvement Fund had met January 17th, 2018, and there was a comprehensive study to access, and it continues to do that. We had prior to the county offices that are needing the Record Improvement Fund money, and this had been approved January 17th, 2018, but hadn't passed through a public meeting, and now I'm asking to have it go through this public meeting and to be passed. And so that's those 2. And then I also want to mention that these estates are pertinent historical deteriorating estates from the 1900s and back beginning of our county. And so they're very pertinent to the history of Mifflin County, and I was approved in as the one next. Tammy Stuckett had approximately $20,000 approved, and I was the next in line of the importance of having those estates scanned by Infocom, and they were the prices, okay, that the County Record Improvement Fund committee had approved.
Are those records on microfilm now or just paper?
No, they're just brittle paper. They were tri-folded. We have spent lots of time flattening them, putting them in flat files, and then they needed to be in flat files for a while till they would be able to be scanned. And so we are still continually, there's thousands of them, of the old ones, let alone the newer ones. So, so the next is the deeds. The deed books, those next 3 points, and I have proposals for them to be signed today. Do have the deed books, we have microfiche, and the deed books are in the basement, and they would scan the books. They would actually take the books to Infocom and scan them, along with the estates too. And so I'm asking to have those, because they're pertinent information, and everybody should, and it will go through remote access, and then the county for the estates and the books will be reimbursed and making money for the county. So it's not just a project for preservation, but that's the big thing. The county will be reimbursed with both. And people can sit in their offices in their homes and go online with Infocom. There is a charge for them, but also county gets money back. And so that's the whole thing of it, preservation and the county benefiting. Yes.
Okay, questions for Barb?
We had a recent meeting last week or the week before on the County Improvement Fund. And these are important projects, no doubt about it. And I'm still confused about where the funds are coming from, given the meeting that we had last week. At that meeting, the committee recommended to the commissioners that the county improvement fund be used to supplement the, I'm going to say the register recorder's improvement fund. I don't know if I have those labels correct.
If I could, actually, I think you mixed register and recorder are 2 separate offices.
That's correct.
So there's a recorder of deeds record improvement fund, which does not include the register of wills. Barb serves in both offices. I'm sure you're aware of that. But the fund, I guess I'm just filling in here because I'm our solicitor on this, and It's a $5 fee. It's charged on recording of documents. $2 of that goes to the county record improvement fund, $3 of it goes to the recorder of deeds record improvement fund. So the state files would be in the register of wills office. They would not be out of the recorder of deeds record improvement fund. They'd have to come out of the county record improvement fund. And the deeds would properly come out of the recorder of deeds record improvement fund.
So I was saying, Dan, that these first two, and I do see this, the salutation, that these are register of wills.
They are. The estates would be register of wills.
And these are
The deeds are
recorder of deeds.
correct.
If I may add to that discussion, I sat in on the county record improvement fund that was most recently called, and I think to correct your interpretation, Rob, what was agreed to was not that it would supplement the recorder record improvement fund, it would supplement the Register of Wills Orphans Court Automation Fund to the extent Barb wanted to use those funds to make and do scanning on the state side.
Okay,
Not the automation.
thank you.
The Register of Wills and Orphans Court Automation Fund, that the county record improvement fund would be used to supplement the automation fund to the extent the automation fund have insufficient funds to complete that estate report. Yeah, we did not agree to or look to use county record improvement fund or, well, I'm sorry, let me back up. We were not looking to use recorder of deeds record improvement fund money to scan estates or orphan court related matters.
But the county record improvement fund, i.e. the Register of Wills, and those monies were approved for the Register of Wills. It was for the comprehensive plan Tammy had needed for her records, and then I did next. And I made that evident, and it was approved.
All right, do I have a motion about these items?
I'm still uncertain about the flow. And I know what Dan had said in the explanation by Mr. Baker. These first two says Register of Wills. And this email says County Record Improvement Fund, right? That's where these are supposed to come from, right?
The books are the Recorder of Deeds Improvement Fund. And the estates.
Well, Barb, I'm just looking at these two, and please
Okay,
put these two.
those are the Register of Wills,
Right,
yes.
and please put these two proposals on the Commissioner's agenda, and paid by the County Record Improvement Fund.
Right, the
Right.
books. And then may I say that this is going to be ongoing. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of estates, so I'd really appreciate that going through, because that won't be the end of it. And the monies that come into the automation fund are so much fewer.
Yeah, I have no issues with the intent of the project. These are very important. We have to preserve them.
Absolutely.
Okay, and to have access from a historical perspective too. I mean, it makes sense. We're going through a budget process now, we're trying to, overall, as you all know, we're trying to figure out where the money is going to come from these projects. And I understand there is money in these accounts, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And the Office of Register of Wills, there is an account in the Register of Wills?
There's an automation fund that
Okay, there's an automation
it'll be
fund.
used, once I get these done, get these out of the way.
Well, here's
I'll
where I'm going
continually-
with this.
I'm gonna ask again.
If you could use the automation fund, and I'm going back to what Mr. Baker had said. I'm trying to think about what we did at the meeting that we had last week. We said, use the automation fund and supplement it with the county improvement fund if we needed more money. Is that what we said?
Yes, that was what was agreed to at the meeting. That was
Well, that
voted on.
was recommended.
Were recommended, agreed to at the meeting to be recommended to the commissioners for approval for their decision as to how to spend that county record improvement fund money.
But may I say, I have on that automation for the Register of Wills and Clerk of the Ordinance Court, I have many, many, many books, marriage licenses that need scanned.
Oh, I bet, I'm sure.
I
he
mean,
does.
so that could be used for those, and the county record improved to get that. I've had two Pennsylvania Historical Museum and Commission grants in the past, $5,000 each. That's, you know, what I have used to scan those. In the past, they were like 1700s. And so this would be such a help to go, because it was approved by the committee, that I was next in line.
Well, why can't the automation fund be used first?
Well, because if I can use the county record, what would be wrong? I have been here all these years, and I'm trying to do these records with the money, because you can't do it with just a few dollars. You have to wait till you have some monies to do it. But that, I have contracts awaiting to be signed for the Clerk of the Orphans Court also. So if I take all of it, I won't probably get from the county records improvement. They're not wanting to seem to do that for me, which
Well, we had a
It's
meeting,
very
and,
unkind.
and the recommendation to the commissioners was to supplement the automation fund to the extent that it is needed in order to do the important project that we all agree should be done. That was the recommendation.
But who has more records than I do in this whole building? Historical records that need to be taken care of. Priority.
Yeah, I'm not,
And then the next
I don't think
is,
anybody's
I mean, I
arguing.
have marriage licenses back from 1855, and they need them. And that is the automation also.
Well, I think what
It
we're
aligns.
doing is trying to determine the best use of the funds.
Pardon?
We're trying to determine what is the best use of the funds.
Exactly. Deb, you're in the county.
It's very difficult when you're sitting on a committee that 3 of the votes are commissioners to not vote, for you not to get the vote. So when you say that there were 5 of us there that day, so 3 of you were commissioners, it didn't matter how the other 2 of us voted, when you voted for it, that sealed the deal.
That could have been alleviated if we'd had the 6th member, huh?
And who is the 6th member? Barbara,
I know.
there's a lot of confusion about this. And part of it is because when we had this meeting last week, you were probably the single most important person to be there because your office administers these funds. And yet you weren't there. For whatever reason, you did not come to the meeting.
I was not, honestly, I was not feeling good that morning, I'm sorry.
Well, if you'd have just called in and said that you weren't feeling well, we would have rescheduled it. We had no idea why you weren't there.
But you could have rescheduled it.
Pardon?
Could have rescheduled.
Well, we could have rescheduled if we would have known that you weren't going to be coming in. We could have canceled the meeting that morning
We have
and
done that.
rescheduled it.
That has been done already in the county records improvement fund that we rescheduled because somebody wasn't there.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I make a motion that we table the 5 items presented by Barbara Stringer so that we can thoroughly review them as well as have legal input from the county solicitor.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. I think the pointer needs to be made. The bottom line is we exist to serve the public.
Oh, I do.
I think we need to have meaningful conversation, thorough analysis, so we understand all the funds, all the uses, make sure we're doing the best work for the people. We have residents that use those records. We have real estate people, prospective homeowners, and and the like, that use it online, they come into our office and use it. We need to use all those monies to their best possible use. So I think, yes, Mr. Counselor.
Thank you for recognizing me. I think the only, listen very carefully to what all of you have to say. I think we're going to find that the only items that are going to be at issue in our analysis are the estate files that are going to be digitized. The recorder of deeds books the payment for that is definitely coming out of the recorder of deeds record improvement fund. And the recorder of deeds, the holder of that office, is charged with identifying what those things are and to spend that money. Of course, you, in your capacity as the county commissioners, you're the chief executive officers, you have to enter into the contracts for her. And I understand you've tabled it, and I understand wanting to get the legal input, and I'm confident that your solicitor's probably going to come to the same conclusion that I have.
We've come to the conclusion that it's a partnership.
Yeah,
So-
and it definitely
So
is.
nobody actually just has the power to jump out and do what they want to do.
That's correct. You're absolutely correct.
We authored a letter yesterday, I believe.
You what?
I drafted a letter yesterday.
Oh, okay.
You'll get, and we'll talk about when everybody decides on it, but I understand what you're saying, but I want everybody to realize it is a partnership.
There's no doubt about that.
All right.
There's no doubt about that. But the money in the recorder of deeds records, I mean, there's $3 set aside out of that $5. The legislature did that for a good reason because we, more than historical purposes, I mean, I'm a lawyer, we need evidence for what your ownership rights are in your real estate, and everybody that owns real estate in this county, your evidence is ultimately tied back to those deed books, but also it's tied back to those estate files because land is inheritable, and it's a frequent thing that we need to produce that evidence someday. So, and you acknowledge that this is a very worthy subject. Commissioner Postal said exactly that. I was very happy to hear him say that because it's definitely true. But I think that it's very important that we get those deed books off of that microfilm. That microfilm is deteriorating, and we need to get it digitized. Once you get these things digitized, then hopefully they stay digitized for the foreseeable future. So I hope that maybe if we look at this the next time, we'll look at the recorder of deeds digitizing as perhaps being a separate resolution from the estate file records, which seems to be the only issue of whether or not the automation fund should first be the primary payer for that, supplemented by the county record improvement fund, if that seems to be where you're at. I know that you've already tabled it and seconded it, but hopefully you can have that at the November meeting to get the recorder of deeds, get that part taken care of, because I do think that she has to make that decision as to what goes, and then you enter the contract. The rest of it, I think, is within your discretion with regards to the county record improvement fund. I hope you'll take action to preserve it, so, thank you.
Thank you. Also, we're saying we need analysis, we need thorough, meaningful conversation to arrive at the best possible conclusion so the monies are used effectively and the records are improved.
Well, you can understand, I mean, we've had hours and hours of meetings on budgets, and we're going through the line items, and there is going to be some very tough decisions that are going to have to be made as we proceed and end this process, and we're looking at every line item. And there's just a little bit of confusion, at least in my mind, on where the funds are to be coming from, and part of it is my confusion. But I'm not tabling this again because these aren't important projects. I'm just confused about where the money's coming from. And so between now and our next meeting, we can sit down and talk about it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item M, appointment of Michael Baker to fill an unexpired term on the Mifflin County Board of Assessment Appeals. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item N, personnel, hiring of Bailey Hesketh for part-time corrections officer effective October 29th, 2018. Motion to approve this hire.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. That concludes the items on our agenda today. Thank you for attending. We stand adjourned.